destroyed in verse 14. Yep. Horns will be cut off and it will fall to the ground. Chapter 4, when God withheld rain from Israel, did they return to him in verse 7 and 8? No. When God blasted them with blight, sent locusts, sent plagues, killed their young men, did Israel return to them in verse 10? No. Okay. When God overthrew some like Sodom and Gomorrah, did they return to God in verse 11? No. Okay. So we'll start up on Amos chapter 5 Sunday.
To use the right format again. So I don't know what we got. You think it's all on there, Shane? Good, thank you. There's only two choices, okay? There's 4:3 and what is it, 16:1. You would think it wouldn't be a problem, but it is. Okay. The problem is it's a default. It comes up as the default. So I'm sitting there going away, and bringing it in here, and it's not right. All right, well, let's take a look tonight at chapters 44 and 45. This is where we get introduced to Cyrus. And of course, yeah, I don't understand that. That comes from a previous lesson, and it was visible at that time. Anyways, forget that. So we're talking about Cyrus. 600 to 530 BC. He's also called Cyrus the Great. Very interesting figure to study. He was a Persian who defeated the Medes and united the surrounding territory. And there's actually a lot to read about it. It is really interesting to go back and do that. He created the largest empire assembled up to that point in history. This was the second empire mentioned in Daniel's interpretation. Remember Daniel 2? We've got Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon. We've got the Persian Empire is the second one. The third one is the Greeks. And then the final one is the Roman Empire. These are the four that we see in that. And so this is the second empire that we talked about. Notice Cyrus was born in 600 BC. What year would you kind of predict that Isaiah is talking about him and telling us all this good stuff about how he's going to use him? Take a wild guess. Yeah, about that. I mean, he prophesied from 740 to the time of his death, which was, they say, about 683 or something like that. But it's interesting that he's talking about a person that won't even be born until 600 BC, 100 and some years plus. That's a marvelous thing, isn't it? It really is that kind of detail is there, and it's truly a reason why we believe. This is the Cyrus cylinder. There's three of them that are made. One of them you can just go up to Chicago and see. That's the one in Chicago at what's used to be called the Oriental Institute. It's on the University of Chicago. It's free. You can go up there, and it's really worth the trip. I think it's closed on Mondays still, but it's now called not the Oriental Institute, but it's called the Agency for Ancient Studies or something like that. But it's really worth the trip, and that's the original that's at one of the three that's there in Chicago. And the interpretation, I just took a picture of the actual sign in front of it. This clay cylinder is inscribed in Babylonian cuneiform with an account of by Cyrus, king of Persia, and it gives the dates, of his conquest of Babylon in 539 and the capture of Nabonidus, the last Babylonian king. Cyrus claims to have achieved this with the aid of Marduk, the god of Babylon. We're going to read about that in there. We're going to read that in 44, 45. We'll see. I can't remember which one it is. It says that I have chosen him. It's 45. I have chosen him, and he does not know me. He does not know me, it says. Twice, in two different places there, one right after the other. Or he has not known me, or something to the effect. So he's in this document, he's ascribing the aid of Marduk, the god of Babylon. He then describes measures of the relief he brought to the inhabitants of the city, and tells how he returned a number of images of gods, which Nabonidus had collected in Babylon, to their proper temples throughout Mesopotamia and western Iran. At the same time, he arranged for restoration of these temples and organized the return to their homelands of a number of people who had been held in Babylon by the Babylonian kings. Although the Jews are not mentioned in this document, their return to Palestine followed their deportation by Nebuchadnezzar II was part of this policy. Interesting, I thought. And then this is one of the verse. It says in 45, 4 through 5, for Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I have even called these by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. Remember, now he's talking about Cyrus at this point. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me. So I think that kind of jives with what we just saw there. In another place, he says that he did know him, but I think that can be explained. But in this particular case, he's saying, thou hast not known me, because he's giving according to the inscription, he's giving the credit to Marduk as the thing. He is a polytheist. He is in no way following Jehovah in this whole thing. But the fact that it's mentioned this way is just marvelous. I mean, it shows that the God that we serve is really powerful, and that he is in control in the lives of men today. So as we move on from the chapters that we were studying, we're staying within the section that Brother Harkrider talks about, that God is making a very solid point about he is God because he tells us things that are going to happen in the future. And over and over and over throughout 40 to 48, he's driving home that point. That is a main theme of those chapters, is that God can tell us what is going to happen in the future. Okay. So let's take a look at the questions. Is there anything you saw in there that you thought was interesting that you want to bring up to the class? Anything that might have... So the first question is, who does the Lord, the King of Israel, say that he is? Yeah. And we get that again also in Revelation, don't we? I think it's interesting that same thought process, we talk about God, we talk God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. You know, he closes out the very last chapter of the very last book with Jesus saying, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and last. I just think that's really significant. Almost the very last verse, we're told to remember that fact, that God is all in all. He's the Alpha, the Omega, the first, the last, and he should be everything to us, and he is to this group. I'm absolutely sure of that. Number two, how does God describe those who make graven images? absolutely. I'm reminded of a thing that Alan, when he talked to us about Hevel. Remember Hevel, the discussion that we had there with that? It's something that's transitory, it's breath, it's vapor, it's fleeting, it's vanity. It is a worthless activity. And if you remember last time we were talking about, I said I wasn't sure exactly where it was, where the guy grabbed the wood and turned it in different steps. Well, it was the very next chapter. I guess that's where I saw it. So, and Chuck and I were talking about that. So, those that make graven images, it is hevel. It is nothing. What do men do with the wood from trees? 44:15. To fry that fish up that you caught, you know. So he burns that gets warm, and he says, you know, and he makes himself some food, and then he says, I got a little bit left over, I'll worship it. And I just think there's some irony there, you know, when we read that. But I don't know, you know, I think we need to think of that in terms of, okay, well, I mean, how can a person, I mean, just kind of let's think about it for a second. How can a person have made that thing and fall down to it and worship it as deity? But yet, aren't we doing the same thing today? Don't we do the exact same situation? It may not be an image, but it's the same thing. So I thought, let's do 4 first, and then I want to talk a little bit about that. Why does he not say that he hath burned part of the tree in the fire and made? Why does he not say that he hath burned part of the tree in the fire and made an abomination of the rest? Why does he not say that? Why does he not know it? I think is what the question's asking. Right. And the King James says, a deceived heart hath turned him aside. 49, 19 through 20, and I think that's the last sentence fragment, is a deceived heart hath turned him aside. So, when we take what we learned in in question 3, and we ask that question, how, is that something that just ancients did that was really dumb, you know? Or is that something that we can kind of pull forward? Don't we have men with really deceived hearts now? We do. We really do. We get out and talk with very many people out in public, you know, try to spend some time with them explaining what we believe that the Bible is teaching. We find out that people want to be deceived for a whole variety of reasons. If we had a whiteboard up here, we could list mom and dad condemning them to hell by saying, you know, what they teach is wrong, or, you know, any kind of number of reasons. But you understand where I'm going with that. So when we talk about this deceived heart, that's taking a piece of wood and doing things with it, and then at the end, making it something to worship. Anybody think of something today, maybe that we might do, that would kind of do that? I kind of made a little chart here for myself. I'll be first. How's that? So in this particular case, we've got a tree, and we've got a tree being used to cook food, taking care of immediate needs. We've got something that keeps us warm, makes us feel good, you know, in the fire that's brought out. And then we make something to worship with the third item. Okay? We've done all 3 things with that piece of wood. So move that over to, let's say that, you know, we just not real turned on by, you know, worshiping Jehovah. You know, just doesn't really do much for us. You know, we have that deceived heart that it's not that important. I'm going to kind of go my own way, and I'm going to determine I'm going to worship feeding the poor. Okay, so here's how I wrote it. I may be way off base here, but so the right next to cooking food for our own needs, we got a neighbor that comes up on our doorstep and says, "I'm hungry." You feed them. You take care of them. Okay. That's an immediate need, just like cooking food or whatever. Okay. Then what happens is, well, wait a minute. We got a food thing in town. We go down there and we volunteer for them. Nothing wrong with these things. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying these things are wrong. All I'm saying is that we got to be real careful that the things we choose don't become our God. You know, we have to worship Jehovah. We have to, whether we find it exciting or not, we've got to worship him. We've got to read. We've got to study. We've got to do these. And then finally, man, to fill that void that is not filled by God, what do? We go all in on this thing. We devote our life to feeding the hungry. Have we not done a good thing? Everybody shake their head. Yeah, we have. We're feeding the hungry. But we have deceived our heart into believing that this somehow is going to replace service, coming to church, or even maybe when we come to church, we go straight to the basement and take care of food for the families that are going to be coming. You know, we're not going up there because we're just not all in on that. You see where I'm going with that? We must be alive, vibrant, and excited about God. He must be a big part of our lives. And that includes helping the poor. That includes teaching others the gospel. All of the things that we read, we have to do those things. Otherwise, what I'm saying is we've done the same thing. We've gone ahead and we've created our own God. We've created what we want to do, what interests us, which is all in on everything about feeding the poor. Not a thought about God at all. So, we can do it today is what I'm getting at. Go ahead. That good one. Right. Oh yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it too. Wish I'd have thought of that. That's right. It's the priority that you have. But you see where I'm going with that? We're laughing at them doing that. We're laughing at them for using that piece of wood to do all three of those things. Right. Mhm. Right. Leave those things undone. That's right. Um, yeah. Yeah. I don't want to stand by those people. I tell you. Yeah, I'm hearing it too. That's right. Yeah. It is. It really is. But in the end of the day, we know man's not going to replace what God has done. That's one thing we can know for sure. Is he may try, he may completely mess up his life, but he's not going to do it. And we may suffer. The scary part is we may suffer some discomfort for it, in the future. Yeah. So, all right. So, in contrast to idols, who is God? Mm-hmm. Yep. I've got 44, 21 through 22. There was a lot of answers to that question as you went down through there. I put Israel's Redeemer and he that formed thee from the womb. Anybody have something else? All of these are right. In contrast to idols, who is God? There was some deep, deep stuff, in these chapters that we're reading. I mean, as you read it, you just pull more and more out. Why does the Lord call Cyrus his anointed? 44:28. Why would Cyrus, a pagan king, be called his anointed? What's that? Correct. That's exactly right. He is the anointed. He is his servant. There's going to be another servant coming along too. Who's that? That we've been talking about. Yeah, Christ. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Yeah, let's see what it says. Go ahead and read it. That's all right. I do the same thing. So what did you write? Yeah. You need to do this, Jim. Look what I do. I make a copy, then I get all this room over here to add, That's my plan. From now on, that's the way it's going to go. Because I hate that too. You got stuff you want to write, and you don't have no room. Oh, what'd you put down the side? Oh, you didn't get it. Yeah. So what you're saying is, God's going to direct him through what he wants him to do. Yeah. There's some overlap. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, now think about this. The Israelites have been through 3 carrying aways, and they're in Babylon. And when they first got there, remember what they did? They kept saying, there were still people back in Jerusalem. They were saying, this is going to be a short time. And they were told, this is not going to be a short time. This is going to be, just settle in, folks. It's going to be 70 years, okay? Just settle in. What's the Bible say? It says, plant vineyards, marry and be married. Yeah, right. Right. Mm-hmm. So they've been all hauled in there, okay? They've been there. People have died. This whole new generation has come up. Remember the statement, the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. Remember that? That's just, that statement. Where is that? Anybody know off the top of their head? Jeremiah? Was it Ezekiel? I think it is. Yeah. So they were kind of blaming, but anyways, they're in Babylon, all right? And the Lord he's devised a plan. Of course, if they were reading Isaiah, they could see there's a plan coming. There's a guy coming, Sandra. Well, now he's writing this. I'm just guessing. He wrote it in 701. Okay, that's when Sennacherib came. So it could have been before or after. He's just writing the whole time, that his from Uzziah all the way to Hezekiah. Bible tells us from the end of, that's when he prophesied. So he's writing these things, and as you read some of these chapters, there's a lot of redundancy, okay? 40 through 48, we already talked about. One of the key things is the Lord can foretell the future, therefore he is God. That comes up all the time. He's told us over and over, I'm the Alpha, the Omega. So it looks to me like maybe he wrote these things, on parchment, went out and preached it, He's still in Jerusalem, went out and preached it to the people, because he says, they're not listening to me, when I'm saying these things. No. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and that's a good point. And then here's the other point that I'll add to what you're saying is, you think Cyrus didn't know this? I suspect Daniel said, hey, come here, bud. This is you right here. Don't you think he probably told him? And Cyrus is surprised. Whoa, wait a minute. That's my name, So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. But the one thing that's true, Isaiah's prophesying, and he's telling them, okay, and they're not listening. Why? We go back to what we talked about in 4. They have a deceived heart. It does not matter what happens. It doesn't matter if somebody does a miracle in front of them. They're not going to change their ways because they're living their life. See what I mean? And which is what we do. This is what happens in our world. Yeah, right. You're right. It don't matter he knows or not, because God's already set the plan. He's going to do it. He's going to figure out a way. One of the commentaries I read said, man, these Persian kings were so superstitious. They didn't want, did you read? Yeah. They're so superstitious. That's why anybody that had a temple or something torn down, they were sending, it wasn't just the Jews, they were sending others out as well, as you read from the inscription there. It was a general thing. But who's behind it all? It's not Marduk. It's not, all of the other gods that are out there. It's Jehovah. He's directing the whole thing, And his people will know. He knows that his people, the Jews, the remnant, those that will come along, he knows they're going to know exactly who did this. No, that should give us all hope. Okay, Jonathan. Yeah. That's the magic of the whole thing, That's why when we really contemplate what's going on here, it causes our faith to soar. It's just one of the stools. It's just one of the pegs on the stool of faith. It's prophecy. So it is fascinating. There's no doubt to think about. That's what he was saying. That's what he's saying about in chapter 9. That's the question he was asking. Lord, we're almost there. Yes, we deserved all the punishment we got, but when do we get to go back? Because he could realize that it was the 70 years was coming up. So, to whom was Isaiah 45:13 speaking? I put Cyrus. It says, I have raised him up in righteousness, and I will direct all his ways. He shall build my city, and he shall let go my captives, not for price or reward, saith the Lord. He just did it because, again, we were talking about the superstition, of these kings, these Persian kings. They didn't want any god. They weren't sure if Marduk was behind it or whatever. They didn't want anybody's god fighting against them. So look, all of you, go on home and set up your temples, and when you're praying, pray for us. Be with us. And they built one of the largest empires that has ever been up to that point in time. Let's see, we are on, is it 9? Why would Israel be saved? Or how would Israel be saved? Yep. 45:17 is what I put too. It's kind of similar to, in the Lord. The issue here is for everybody. We're only going to be saved in the Lord. And so we got to get inside this, and we got to read this and make sure our in the Lord definition fits into this thing. Because if it don't, we are not in the Lord. What will be the attitude of those incensed against the Lord when they come to him? What was it? Yeah, it's shame. That's right. It's 45:24. Yeah. All right, true and false. True, true, false, false, true. True, true, false, false, true is what I got. Anybody want to argue about it? True, true. Did you get that good? All right, let's look at the thought questions real quick back here before we leave. First one is, where in the New Testament is the idea of Isaiah 45:23 found, and to whom is it applied? Isaiah 45:23 says, I have sworn by myself, the word has gone out of my mouth in righteousness, and shall not return, that unto me every knee shall bow, and every tongue shall swear. Yep, that's what I have. Anybody else have anything different? Yeah, and every knee's going to bow. It kind of puts Christ on the same, since the quote is talking about God the Father, and now we're talking about Jesus Christ. Kind of puts him on the same plane, don't it? Did you just get ready to say? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. So that rolls right into the next question. Okay, you ready? Here we go. The next question is, how does Isaiah 44:8 refute the Jehovah's Witnesses' claim that Christ was created first as an angel and then became a God? All right. And Isaiah 44:8 says, fear ye not, neither be afraid. Have not I told thee from that time, and have declared it? Ye are my witness. Is there any God beside me? Yea, there is no God, I know not any. Okay, so how does that verse refute the claim that Jesus was first created as an angel? I'm anxious to hear what you guys say about that. Yeah. Does it say that there, though? Am I missing something? Oh. Okay. Okay. Yeah. out of luck, Chuck. Well, you know what? I struggled with that question. I was anxious to hear. I got over a planet. Yeah, something else fun. They also believe that they don't get out there very much. They keep this kind of quiet. And the issue is that when the Lord comes again, the men are going to be raised, okay? And the men are supposed to witness that their wife is worthy to be raised. If a man doesn't witness that his wife needs to be raised, she won't be raised. Anyways, I went back to 43:10, okay, for the first question. Yeah. So you better be nice to me, okay? 43:10, here's what I put. Ye are my witness, saith the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. Right. So that closes the door on the argument that that there's God, and he gets the brilliant idea, hey, I need a son that's going to be an angel. I'll make him an angel first, and then after he graduates, I'll make him into a God. Okay. Well, wait a minute. It says here, though, there's no God after me, which we don't have to go very far. We can look at John 1. Okay, John 1 defeats the whole argument in Genesis 1:26. But I guarantee you, using some of the stuff that we've gotten at the mall and different places we're studying with folks, it doesn't matter if it stares them right in the face. They're going to hold that lie, that deceivement right here, and they are not coming off of it. Does not matter what you show them. Doesn't matter how good of a friend you become. If they're not coming off of it, it's just not happening. So sometimes they're just not good on cards. You have to accept that. Yeah. Some of that stuff is, there's no other way to understand it. And by the time they explain it to you, I don't even know what they just said, you know. Graph it for me. Somebody graph it, you know.
Here we are, but straying pilgrims here. Our path is often dim, but to cheer us on our journey still, we sing this wayside hymn. Yonder over the rolling river, where the shining mansions rise, soon will be our home forever, and the smile, blessed giver, gladdens all our longing eyes. Here our feet are often weary on the hills that thorn our way. Here the tempest darkly gathers, but our hearts within us say, yonder over the rolling river, where the shining mansions
Have you ever noticed that nothing ever drifts in a good direction on its own? Think about it. You see a shopping cart in the middle of the Walmart parking lot. There's a nice car over here, and the cart corral over here. 9 times out of 10, it's going to that nice car. If you drift financially, you don't end up with more money. You end up asking, who spent $48.93 on Taco Bell? You drift with your diet. You never drift into eating more vegetables. You end up hunched over the sink at 10 p.m. eating cookies. And if your car starts drifting, well, you won't be drifting into a parking spot. Although I guess anything could be a parking spot if you drive your car wrong enough. Drifting is subtle. The Hebrew writer says in Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 1, we must pay much closer attention lest we drift away. Drifting doesn't look dramatic. It looks like, I'll do my daily Bible reading later. I'll pray tomorrow. I'll go next week. I'll get serious eventually. My kids are busy. No one wakes up planning to drift. It just happens. And it happens when we're not anchored. You see, drifting is dangerous. In Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 3, the Hebrew writer says, how shall we escape if we neglect so great a salvation? Not reject it, not attack it, but neglect it. A boat that's untied doesn't sink because of a storm. It just quietly floats away. But the solution is simple. It's not complicated. It's not mystical. It's not even elite level spirituality. It's just this. Pay closer attention. Stay tied to the anchor of God's word. Keep your heart engaged. Stay close to God's people. In James chapter 4 and verse 8, James very simply says, draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Don't drift. Draw near. So tonight the question isn't, have I shipwrecked my faith? I don't think anyone ever asks that question. You know, they don't look up and go, have I shipwrecked my faith? But the question should be, have I quietly drifted a little? But you know what? The good news is Jesus isn't far off. He's not standing there with folded arms saying, why did it go that far away? No. Jesus is right here, ready to draw you back and let you be anchored. He's ready to strengthen you and help you be steady. If you need prayers, encouragement, just a reminder to be faithful. If you need help, tonight's the night. And if you're ready to anchor your life to Christ and follow him and put him on in the waters of baptism, the water might be a little cold, but you'll still be glad you did it. If we can help you in any way, won't you please come forward while we stand and while we sing?
And close thine eyes against the light, for sinner, harden not thy heart, be saved, oh, tonight, oh, why not tonight, oh, why serve.